Welcome everybody to another Voice of Nick show. We're going to be illustrating the chapter that we just built a reference board for in our audiobook, or in our book. So now I'm going to just take this color that we have. Can I take this color? Oh, we want to do this. We're going to bring this color to the other page that we have here, fill it in, and now we're going to start building a reference board. So it's sort of daunting to think about doing this from the beginning every time, but you know, we just we do our thing. So now I think what I'm going to do is we're going to have the Greek army be smaller than Neoptolemus's area here. So it's going to be like that probably. And they'll be less detailed as well. So they'll be standing like that. And maybe they'll be like raising their swords or whatever. And each person can have a different pose. But it's the same type of thing. They look like they have chef's hats. This guy will have a spear. And the idea is Neoptolemus is arriving, at the Trojan War. He's, the prophet Calchas has said that he is the means by which the Greeks will win. So, everybody's obviously really excited about that. This guy probably, I guess, just doesn't have any weapons. Maybe he has a different hat. And it's going to be that type of thing throughout. We're going to have to sort of control ourselves with these because the level of detail should not, be overly done. And that's often very hard for me to do because I always just try and add as much detail as I can. So they're all just going to be doing stuff like that. And I'm not going to, he's probably going to be here, but I'm not going to have them like look in different directions because that would signify that they're fighting each other. A little more than it would kind of imply that. So we're going to have them all sort of facing this way. We'll give him like a different pose, I guess. Everybody's going to be doing something. Maybe this guy is leaning on a staff like this. Maybe this guy is, I don't know, running out of ideas. Maybe he's got his bow in his other hand here. looking like that. Okay, so we have that very rough bottom part. Now, Neoptolemus would be standing here, maybe Odysseus and Diomedes also underneath, and I would like to get the ship. It's just a lot of horizontal space that we have to fill, so I don't really know what we would put there. Unless we created like a composition that was like this. I don't think I've ever seen any Greek stuff doing that though. Like a layered thing where people are standing in rows like this. It could represent them like on the wall, like the Greeks. It's actually interesting to think about because the Greeks are on the wall, they're being pushed back to the wall that they built to protect the ships, and Neoptolemus arrives. That might be even more interesting. So we don't need to redo this. We can take this layer and screw with it. So we're gonna hide this. We're gonna turn them in the other direction now. And we can do something where like they're kind of like layered on the wall. Yeah, I actually really like this idea. And let's just take all of this, make it larger. Oops. How do I get these to be? We're gonna have to duplicate it. I don't think we can do this on mobile Photoshop. And for this, we're gonna do the same thing and remove the bottom part. So now we have a new composition, which I think is gonna be more interesting to look at, sort of more dynamic, where we're gonna have Neoptolemus on the right, arriving in from the right, and the Greeks cheering him on the left. And we'll sort of draw their wall to some extent here. I'm not really sure how to depict their wall at this point. I never really thought about... It has to be made of wood or something. I don't know where they would get all the stone from. But I'm not really sure. I don't know, I guess like a... Now this looks kind of more like a British castle. But whatever, we're not really at the stage yet where we need to think about what it looks like. We're just trying to lay out the composition. So then Neoptolemus would arrive here. Let me look at my reference for Achilles. How do I flip this? Is it G? H? No. Option? No. There was a button that you could use to flip pictures. Can't remember what it was. Could have sworn it was... let's see here. controls, pan, zoom, rotate, flip, left mouse button, option, and shift. Yep, that worked. Okie dokie. So we're gonna have Neoptolemus arriving like this. He's gonna have his hat like Achilles has. And he's actually given Achilles armor from Odysseus, so it would make the most sense for him to look like Achilles at this point. And I suppose he would be cheering or like leading the cheer or whatever, so we'll make him do that. With a sword. Maybe he'll have a spear. I think a sword will work better within the composition though. And maybe on this side he'll have a big old shield. And we could just put like the prow of a ship coming in from the side then, which is what I was thinking. Like it'd be too much to do that. So there's a really cool ship design which kind of matches the aesthetic of some of these Achilles pictures I've been doing, which let's see if we can capture it here. Number one, we want it to look like it might be a ship. If we can't get that, it's not really going to be worth it. But there's a really cool one that has an eye at the front of the ship that I think would be awesome to do. Because we've done a lot of imagery with, number one, giving most of the characters that sort of Greek freaky eye. And number two, having that Ajax picture with the eye. So assuming that we can get that to look properly like a ship, that would be good. This is based on an image of Odysseus lashing himself to the mast of his ship. I think that's cool. Okay. Great. Now we start work on it. Maybe we'll do something with like a ground plane. So that it's clear that like the ship is not part of that. What's this layer here? Oh, that's the castle layer. Okay. See, now I'm calling it a castle. It's not supposed to be a castle. All right. Well, I guess it technically is kind of like a castle. We'll just stretch them out for now. Actually, they could do to be a little bit smaller. And I guess it sort of makes sense in like a modern sense where the characters are farther away, so they are smaller. That's not really something they would deal with in Greek pottery, but they would do something where it's like less significant characters are smaller. And that's kind of what we're going for. It just happens that it could also be read as like he's on the shore coming out of the ship and these characters are far away at the wall. So it kind of works in the modern sense and in the classical sense. Good. So now we're going to take all these layers, put them into one just like reference layer. We're going to delete this one of the characters all being at the bottom. And we're going to turn this translucent. And we can start making our picture. Good. So what I think we want to do, because this is going to be a black figure image, we want to turn this layer darker than it is currently, because we're going to want to draw in white. And I think that's probably fine, because I don't know if we can do any kind of crazy stuff to this to change the color temperature. Can do curves. That might work, actually. Color balance might work. Maybe this. Yep, there we go. Okay, so let's make it like a bright color that isn't white. It's clearly not white. Maybe green. So we'll remove the color balance thing. And we're just going to take this and make it less transparent, or less opaque. Good. So now we can see what we're doing, but it's not white. Let's maybe even make it like, can we make it like a red that, well, the red doesn't really fit. Like an orange. The closer you do with this one, the more it makes it just white. Oh, I guess we could do black. I'm really overcomplicating this. Okay, do black. Now, I want to grab the white that we used on the Penthesilea picture, because it's if I did it correctly, it shouldn't be actual white. I want to limit the color palette that we're using here, but I don't know that it will that will work. This might be true white. This was the first picture we did, so a lot of our rules hadn't been established yet, really. We're also going to have to redo his whole form, because you can see that it's not that kind of marker that I like. Yeah, this is like actual white. It doesn't matter, because we're going to go back anyway. Let's just create our own then. Or, you know, we could do it on our Ajax picture, which I'm sure we have the correct whatever color. At the end, we will go and do the actual uniformification of everything. Okay, that's the outline color. And this, yeah, you can see that it's not white. It's like a little bit saturated with brown, which is what I want. Because the white, even if the white that they used at the time was true white, which would be very hard to mix with like pigment, even if that was the case, it would not have survived in that form. It would be like a little bit browned out or yellowed. So now comes the part where we do our thing. Let me grab my Achilles reference. good. And so we're using a slightly thicker gauge for the outline than we would for the rest of the details. That's obviously intentional. Let's match this back to the ref sizing. I always tend to draw the pictures bigger than they were laid out. So I don't really worry about it. I just resize it rather than trying to match my drawing. Like that, like that. They have this weird shape for his butt. I think I got it right there. See, like here, we're not going to bother trying to match him to the ground plane. We're just going to make him smaller. That's a little too small. They draw their feet really long in these particular Achilles images, and I want to honor that. He has like super long toes for some reason. I had to just make him a little smaller. It's too freaky. Okay, we're gonna make his head larger though. And we're gonna make his body larger. This particular type of image of Achilles makes his body seem very thin. I don't know if I want to replicate that in mine. Yeah, because he's going to be stepping up in this one that we're doing where he's like going up a hill. Yeah, I think that's good. Gonna keep making it a higher hill though. Oops. Good. Yeah, we might decide to add our own details later, which is why we only take the pictures to like 80 or 90% completion, because we want to do them all at the end so they match each other. Because I might, for this and the other, like all these Greek images of Achilles never really depict his feet or hands in an interesting way, and we might come up with our own idea for that. My concept for Neoptolemus is basically that he's the same. He looks the same as Achilles, but I'm gonna give him a. So that's what I'm saying is like I'm basing all of my Neoptolemus pictures on Achilles. But I will probably add a couple like flourishes to Neoptolemus's armor so to like differentiate him. So we're going to give him a shield in this hand, but we'll put that on a different layer. I don't know if I want it to be facing exactly towards camera or like kind of half. That might be better. Maybe kind of like that. And then we'll give it a little bit of roundness. Okay. Now we go back to our other layer. We're going to start making the arm to whatever extent that actually appears. So this would be like, that's his left arm. Yeah, so it would be like this. Correct. See, this is more than they would have done on these pieces of art depicting Achilles. But we're going to leave it like that for now. Because this is also suggesting like a, you know, image that's coming out like this towards you of his arm. Like it's layers, which they don't really do either. But obviously the thing we could do is just have his arm hidden behind the shield. But I think it's more dynamic, it's more interesting to see it like that. So these are the kind of places where we make our decisions about what to honor and what to make our own. Okay, we're gonna give him this is the most interesting part of these Achilles pictures, I think, is the musculature that they do. And then we'll delete these parts from the shield picture. Actually, that's all we need to delete. Good. That's not correct. What we're seeing now is an interesting problem where his body really should be twisted in a different way to do what we're trying to do. So let's try and find something that works for the pose. And we'll fix his armor afterwards. Let's try and copy our original design. And then this would go like this. See, this kind of indicates a warlike stance where he's like swinging his sword. What if instead we had him raising his sword up, which would be kind of the same similar pose, except his hand would be going like this, and then his sword would be going like this. Like a Olympic torch. Like that. So I think that's pretty good. If his sword was in the other direction, it would kind of look like he's trying to slice something or chop something. So maybe we can just make his whole figure smaller. Oh, you know what? We should also merge these layers here, because the shield is no longer needs to be a separate layer. Okay, good. Oh, you know what? We're still working with the bones here of the shield. We're actually I think we will lower his hand to fix the rest, because we don't want him to be too small in the frame. Or we could instead give him a spear. So let's just see what that would look like if we took this and blacked out this part. No, I think the sword is kind of like, raising the sword is more of like an act of celebration or whatever, or like symbolic of celebration. What would it look like if we redid this as the swinging thing that we had before? No, yeah, I like this better. This looks less like threatening and more like Yeah, I think that's good. It might end up reading as if the Neoptolemus is attacking whoever's on this wall, in which case that would mean this represents the Trojan wall with the Trojans standing there, because they're all holding their swords up, but that could end up looking like they're fighting with their swords. But either way, I guess it kind of works. All right, so that part is, in place. I think we're still going to make his head bigger, though. His head is really big, like cartoonishly big on this, these images of Achilles. And now that we have the extra space to fill it with, definitely bigger than that. Maybe that. Yeah, we might end up making it even larger. I think what it might be too is that it wants to be wider, like this. It's a nice thing about working in digital art is that you can just keep screwing around. Very easy to iterate on your ideas. Okay, so we have a very rough layout for the composition. Love this ship in the corner. We are probably going to do the wall of Greeks next and kind of, get everything ready to go. And yeah, I think that we're in a good spot. This is an interesting one. I've never gone from the absolute beginning part of the process on the stream before, where I'm like building out the ref board and then starting. We've always started from this stage, so this was a cool one to do. So ladies and gents, that's going to do it for the Posthomerica illustrations this time. Thank you for joining. If you want to see more info about the project that we're doing this for, you could type !Troy in the chat, and